Hello and welcome to another episode of Search Off the Record, a podcast coming to you from the Google search team discussing all things search and having some fun along the way. My name is sometimes Gary and I'm joined today by Lizzie from the search relations team, of which I'm also part of. Today we have a special guest, Dave Smart, and my dog says ... So that's roughly how much I know about Dave Smart. That's actually not true. Welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Hi. Hello, Gary. Hello, Lizzie.
Hi.
I am actually super excited that you're here because you've been a product expert for probably 73 years now.
Feels like it.
And you are very prominent. You have very good questions all the freaking time, which is very annoying because then we can actually answer them. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dave, as you've mentioned. I'm product expert, as you've also mentioned. I'm a web dev and a tech SEO based in Manchester in the United Kingdom. Yeah, I've been product expert now since about 2016, something like that. So that's kind of who I am.
I think my 73 years sounds better. Let's go with that.
We'll stick with that.
What actually got you in the PE program?
Like many of us in there, it was having problems of my own with sites and questions, and you wind up there and you answer a few questions while you ask a few questions, and then you just kind of get sucked into the big gravity hole that is the product expert program, or top contributors as we were back then.
It's so funny. Like we are laughing with Lizzie because at least I know that a few people, probably 3-4, who ended up on the product forums like that and ended up being a product expert, including myself.
You just can't help yourself.
Nope.
You like pain. I don't know.
You go to the product forum because it's like, I can't my new site index. What's up? And then chirp, chirp, chirp. And then you are like, okay, I will just answer a few questions while I'm here.
That's it.
And 73 years later, it's like, oh.
Here we all are.
Cool. You are really quite technical, I think, based on the questions that you are asking. I usually learn about people based on the questions they are asking versus what they are saying. And your questions are really fairly technical. And that just tells me that you either have some technical background or you are just a nerd like me.
Yeah, probably a little column A, mostly column B, more for the nerd side of it.
And it also seemed like you gravitate towards certain parts of search infrastructure when you are answering questions or you are asking questions. And it feels like to me, I don't say that this is it, but it feels to me that it's crawling.
Yeah, I love a bit of crawling.
You love a bit of crawling. Okay. I think you and spammers too.
Are you saying I'm a spammer?
No, I would never say that. I would say that about myself, but not you. Are there any particular things about crawling that you are like super excited about or that you are unsure about?
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of myths out there about crawling, about kind of what it is and what it isn't, and things like crawl budget and phrases you hear thrown around that I think maybe can be quite confusing to people.
Right.
And it's always interesting to try and find it.
Do you have a particular pet peeve that we have to cover in this podcast, or
just basically why do you not index absolutely everything that I've ever written because it's brilliant, and yet you do index all these incredibly spammy sites that link can redirect me to please click this robots text thing that's clear spam, and yet my products aren't.
And that was the podcast for today. Okay, we will try to touch on that. I think we will go there. Lizzie, what do you want to get out of this podcast? Or you are just here for...
I'm just here for the vibes.
Oh, okay.
No. I think that I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about crawling and then hopefully weave it into documentation. So every time I come on an episode, I'm looking to learn something from either our guests or from you.
Wait, I thought our documentation is already perfect.
No. How dare you say that about my documentation?
What do you mean your documentation?
Our documentation.
Better. Jeez. So if you want to talk about crawling, then probably we want to start with Googlebot, maybe?
Yes.
Because, Googlebot is a crawler for search.
Okay, but what is a crawler?
Oh boy.
What does it do? It just walks around the internet, crawling on its legs?
Actually, I will give this to Dave to answer about crawlers.
Yeah, I mean, a crawler is a bit of software that goes out to fetch information, resources from websites. So if a search engine wants to index and rank something, it needs to go and fetch it first. So they use a crawler and they go and fetch whatever they need to do, and then that can go through all the wonderful indexing and ranking stuff. But to get to that point first, you have to go download something. You have to go and fetch something first.
Right.
Are crawlers only used in conjunction with search engines, or are there other purposes to have a crawler?
Oh, there's tons of purposes nowadays. I think in the 1990s, like early 1990s, where robots.txt was born, then the whole discussion was about crawlers for search engines. And then nowadays it's more like crawlers for anything that you can imagine. Like you have SEO tools, you have search engines, obviously, you have chatbots that crawl, you have all these various things that do some crawling job for some particular purpose. Or the number of crawlers grew, it got more complicated, and the use cases widened quite a bit. It's not just search anymore, at least. But yeah, internally, what Dave said is pretty much what we have for Googlebot. Basically, we have a piece of software that is fetching from the internet on the request of a team or an individual, like a Googler. You instruct it to fetch something from the internet, and then it will schedule that for fetching. And in a few, maybe seconds or minutes or even hours, if the web server is overloaded, then you will get back whatever you asked it to fetch. So it's pretty much like curl or wget, but I guess with more twists and knobs and whatever. Well, Lizzie made a face, so now I'm elaborating.
What kind of twists? That's what I want to know.
Well,
funky ones?
A funky twist, yeah. It's like a pasta that is like twisted. Anyway, no, it's like, think Googlebot that's composed of 3 different systems. If we want to break it down, it's like the fetcher itself, which is like basically anyone at Google can control it and ask it to fetch from the internet, although then it will not be called Googlebot, it will be called something else, meaning that the name Googlebot is reserved for search specifically. But there's also a controller that basically merges the links that we discover from the HTML of the fetched pages with the links from sitemaps and other sources, and then it gives them to the fetcher. And then there's a third system, which is a scheduler, which is orchestrating when and what should we fetch, right?
And that's where it stops. It doesn't make any decisions about indexing. Like, is Googlebot also responsible for anything else? Or
no, Googlebot is just fetching. That's it.
So what drives you to think what you need to fetch then? So it's great that you need to fetch something, but how do you trigger this? You think, oh, there's something there that needs to be fetched, I need to go and do that.
All right, I will turn this around and I will ask you, if you operated a crawler, how would you decide what to fetch?
If I operated a crawler, I'd be a lot richer than I am. No, you'd kind of need to do it by looking at what's known, finding somewhere to start, a starting point. And from that, you would get the links and stuff. And then you would try and determine what's important to go and fetch now, and maybe what can wait until later, and maybe what's not important at all.
Yeah.
How would you decide what's not important versus important? What would be like 1 or 5 things?
There could be quite a few things. I think, have you already got this information? Have you already crawled this before? Or is this brand new? Does it come from somewhere where it seems that this bit, it's quite important that you get that crawled quickly now? Or is it just a big load of spam? I suppose could be another thing.
Welcome to the internet, the land of spam. Anyway, I think that's pretty much what we do, right? I guess we can break it up in 2 parts. One is the scheduler, which is basically says that I want to crawl this. And then there's also a limiter in the fetchers, so we don't overwhelm sites. But that's also kind of controlled by some feedback from search. So basically, if the crawl limit decreases with the decrease of demand from the controllers, the different controllers that ask the fetchers to crawl. So basically, it's not just search that control the limit, how much we can fetch from a site, but also, like, for example, suddenly ads wants to fetch more, like for ads quality, then we will try to push up the limit and see if we can. So we can fetch more for ad scroll. But from the perspective of search, which is the only thing that I know how it works at Google, basically if search demand goes down, then that also correlates to the crawl limit going down. So if you want to increase how much we crawl, then you somehow have to convince search that your stuff is worth fetching, which is basically what the scheduler is listening to.
So you hear it, is that basically what you term crawl budget? It's kind of made out of two bits then. It's crawl budget is how much you can afford to spend and how much you want to spend.
I thought crawl budget is a myth. You introduced it as a myth.
It is a myth. But it's a myth that people talk about and it's in the documentation.
No.
Oh my God.
Lizzie.
We have a whole document dedicated to this.
What have you done to me? No, but I think internally at least we don't think of crawl budget, but like in documentation, we just had to make a doc that explains crawl budget from our perspective at least.
I mean, it's a concept, I guess, more so to explain to people that there are finite resources. At least that's how I'm interpreting it, is that we need some kind of vehicle to explain that we can't charge you more and you can't charge us more, and that there's a limit to these things.
Charge?
Well, it's budget. I don't know. Money.
It has nothing to do with money. Jeez, don't take us there.
So I can't pay you for more crawl budget?
Don't believe her. Whatever she says, don't believe her.
But isn't it a little bit like serving space and servers and...
Search is free. Well, free of cost. You don't have to pay us anything. There's no charge. Anyway, yeah, you are spending crawl budget with each fetch, right? So you want to think of what you want us to fetch and what you think we should not fetch.
Okay, but who's going to say that they don't want crawlers fetching stuff? Doesn't everybody want all their things to be fetched all the time?
I don't think so. I mean, probably Dave sees quite a bit of this on the forum, but I don't think that we should fetch everything.
No, I think a lot of people do think that there's something wrong if not everything's fetched, but I think people don't always think that not everything on a site might be important, someone using the site, but it's not a great place for them to land search results. So think of like if somebody landed on your shopping cart or somebody landed on a page of product that was filtered down, blue shoes that size 4 and, so hyper specific that it wouldn't be that useful for people. So I think people do panic that not, why is it 100% of my site indexed? And when really, you should be more worried about is the important, useful stuff that where someone could land and it makes sense from a search. Is that indexed and crawled?
Yeah, I 100% agree, I think. I would prefer if people would try to identify what are the important URLs that they actually care about to show up in search versus like I want everything from my site to show up, because like realistically, we don't have infinite storage space. So we have to wrangle with what we put in the index and what we exclude. And very often it's not like we are not excluding because something is of low quality or whatever. It's simply because we don't have more space.
So Googlebot doesn't get hurt feelings if you don't let it in every room?
I think not. Like I'm trying to think of a scenario where it's like if you exclude Googlebot from a particular section of your site, whether it would hurt the crawling of your site overall or not.
What about pagination? Because you see people block that. They've got 3-4 pages of stuff. I'm like, oh no, that's a parameter. We've got to block that.
Oh.
Do you see people wanting all of the paginated pages to be indexed, or like what's more the misconception or conception that people have when they're thinking about that, Dave?
I think there's kind of two things that come back maybe to crawling in that, is that if you've got a series of articles in a blog and they're going on, one of the ways I say that crawlers find things to crawl is through links on the site. So it's kind of one thing. But then again, do people want people landing on a category page that's page 5? So I think some people have some conflict there, because if you block the crawlers, then they're not going to go and find those links to articles unless you've got them somewhere else. But then again, also, is that a useful page in search? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So it's kind of a bit of a conflict. I think a lot of people have a lot of conflicting thoughts and best practices on pagination. Do they let it get crawled, or do they canonicalize it all to the first page, or do they no index everything, or what do they do? So I think it is one of those really kind of tricky topics. It's probably not a single answer for every site.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking, that maybe we don't actually have an answer for every site.
Why? Does it depend on the use case? Like if it's endless products, or if it's an article that they've broken up into like a 5-part thing or something weird?
I think so.
So if the content matters, like if it makes sense to land on page 2 of whatever that thing is, then okay to crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's also looking at how, are there other paths to get around the site that aren't just that pagination? Maybe you should be looking at that too.
Yeah.
Right. So if that's the only way that people can find the products is on page 3, is like not that great of a setup, potentially.
Potentially not.
Also, if you don't have a sitemap, for example, then it might be actually helpful to have the paginated things indexed.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or at least let them be crawled.
Just for discovery purposes?
Yeah. I honestly don't know. This could be a good topic, like figuring out pagination and what can we say more about pagination, because I 100% agree with Dave that we probably don't have a single answer for every site. It's a utter bane of my existence, it depends. I hate that so much. Okay, but like going back to scheduler, because we kind of have to get back on track maybe. So for getting more URLs scheduled on your site for crawling, and we already got through the crawl limit, which is basically a hard limit, how much we can crawl from the site. To get more URLs, that's basically just how sought after your content is in search. Because if we see that people are looking for your content and they are linking to your content, then that will naturally increase how much search wants to crawl from your site.
Okay, so the thing is, can that not be a bit chicken and egg? If you've got a brand new site, you've just launched to the world, and your marvelous content is brilliant, but nobody knows about it. So how would you know to schedule to crawl that if there's not those signals out there that people can find you and then create links or click on your search results?
Oh yeah, that's true. So as a site owner, I would just buy links. I mean, no, sorry.
Send your offers to Gary now.
That's not what I meant. I would probably do some like social media promotion or whatever. Basically just let people know that I have this site and they should link to me, because links are actually really important for discovery. So the more links we see from a natural source, of course, like not bot links and crypto links and whatever. What's a crypto link? Anyway.
Uncle Spammy's big companion of ultimate spam sites.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
5 links on there.
Oh, that's a good idea. Dave, we should build a PBN. Anyway, but yeah, like I would just probably somehow try to get links in some natural way.
Yeah.
More important than a sitemap for discovery?
Well, sitemap, it just tells us that the link exists.
Ah, for scheduling, like that this is important for us to go look at it faster.
Natural link will tell us that this link exists. This important person, Lizzie, talked about this topic, plus gives us some context about what we might find on the other side of the gate.
Is that equally true, though, for internal links? So if you've got some of your site, here's the thing, and you've launched a whole new range of stuff, surely it's a good idea to start pushing internal links on pages are crawled.
Yeah, and every now and then I find myself recommending people that they would link from their homepage the important new pages that they launch, because on Onesie, on our search documentation site, for whatever reason, people are going to the homepage. I have no idea what they are doing there, but sure, whatever.
Looking at the awesome pictures of Googlebot.
Even for them, the homepage is important. So why wouldn't it be important for Google? I don't know about other search engines in this particular instance, but for Google, the homepage is pretty much always the most important place on the site. So if you are linking from the most important place on your site to the supposedly important new products, that tells us that we should crawl that sooner rather than later, right?
I mean, does it make sense to do that in all cases, though? Because we're not using that for Onesie, at least, to promote new documentation.
And whose fault is that?
Oh, well, okay, so maybe I'm learning from this session that I should be changing out the top button to every new page to push it into search faster. Would that be a good strategy?
I think we are very fortunate with Onesie because when we push a new piece of documentation, then Barry Schwartz from seroundtable.com will write about us very soon. A couple other sites will write about us very soon after we publish the documentation, and they will usually link because hopefully they trust the resource that they are linking to. And that's a very good sign for search engines that they should crawl the particular page that they are linking to. So in our case, I even think that we could remove the sitemap and we would be completely fine.
Do you want to try it as a test?
Sure. But I think it's baked into the software, so I don't know if we can actually remove it. Anyway.
Okay, so first there are links, then sitemaps, then what else can we do in order to get things crawled faster?
What about the indexing API?
Why would you do that to me? Yeah, we have indexing API, but it is for very specific use cases. I don't remember what the use case. I think it's broadcast event and something else.
Job posting URLs and live streaming videos.
Right. And we would prefer if people used it for that particular things. And yes, it might actually work for other things as well, like pushing spam into Google's index. But it's not very nice, is it?
I know a lot of spammers worry about if it's very nice or not. That's their first concern usually.
Only polite spamming here.
Polite spamming,
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I would prefer if we lock down indexing API quite a bit more, because I think for the use cases that it's advertised for, like the broadcast event and whatever Lizzi said the other thing is, job posting,
Mm-hmm.
I think in those cases it's actually critical to get things in the index fast. Every now and then you see these job postings on LinkedIn that they get overwhelmed in minutes with resumes and whatnot. Like, it makes perfect sense to get a job posting URL in the search index as fast as possible, or broadcast event, same thing.
And removed.
And removed, yeah.
Because you can use it to get it out. So that's like a super frustrating user experience to go click on the thing and have it be like, oh, it's not here. Can't apply for the job.
Right. But even that, I think it's like specific to certain niches. Like with jobs, it makes sense to get it out from the index as fast as possible. With broadcast events, like you end up on a broadcast page and it's like, oh, your broadcast has ended. The BBC hates you. But then if I publish something about, I don't know, Breath of the Wild video game, and I take it on offline because I had so many typos, then like, who cares? Like, if the person ends up on the 404 page.
I guess, why does it need to be restricted to these two use cases? Why not just use it for everything?
I think it's because it's not scalable. And also, I really don't like proprietary things. Well, indexing API is proprietary, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just for this one use case. It's not like a sitemap or something that could be used from multiple.
Yeah. Sitemap is like for literally any search engine. Even, what's the big thing?
Index Now.
Index Now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Index Now is literally any search engine could join and do it. With indexing API, it's just one search engine that can do it. Like, I realize that it's needed for certain niches, but I don't think that it should be expanded to everything.
Well, sometimes it's a bit of a self-defeating goal. People are pushing stuff out with this so much rather than concentrating on why am I not getting indexed anyway?
Right.
And so they're wasting their time and energy pushing stuff through an API. You might even crawl it, but often it seems to me that they seem to get dropped from index or just don't rank anyway. So that just seems like a waste of everyone's resources, really.
Yeah. I think it's fairly good at getting stuff in the index fast, but then we are re-evaluating what we put in the index fairly often. And then you can just see that, like, you push something in the index and in like 10 minutes it falls out. It's like, but why? Why? It's because you push something not so high quality in the index. It's like, sure, we drop it out.
Okay.
So if you do that, will Googlebot learn to not come back as often?
I don't think so. but that's a good idea.
Write that down.
But if they are pushing low quality through, though, surely that must affect it some ways. Or is that just low quality you'd find anyway?
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. So once we have something in the index, we would crawl it again anyway. Like with index now, we will have to crawl because you are pushing just a URL. And then we end up crawling that URL and then putting it in the index or not. But more often than not, we will put it in the index. And then we will have to decide whether we want to keep it in the index, right?
Yeah.
And that will be based on the quality that we observed under that URL, plus the site.
You just said index now. We're not currently using index now, right?
We are not. No. But what I wanted to illustrate with the index now is that that's not proprietary. That's an open protocol that any one search engine could join in. And if they wanted to, or not just search engine, but like CDNs and whatnot, and it would work because it's an open system versus index now, indexing API, which is proprietary, and it would not scale to other search engines or whatever's.
So one thing to think about is quality. If you're not thinking something's great quality and you improve that, would you expect to see a tick up? In crawling? Is it something you come back and reassess regularly?
Yes, most certainly. And I think there are a bunch of case studies out there where people were like, we, let's say, removed the low quality parts of our site and then crawling improved. If it's just like 1-2 URLs, then it's not going to make any difference. But if it's like a relatively large section of the site that is low quality, then probably is going to help a lot if you improve that section.
Do you need to do anything to tell Google that, hey, you made an improvement? Can you crawl more frequently now?
Nah. So scheduling is very dynamic. Basically, as soon as we get the signals back from search indexing that the quality of the content has increased across this many URLs, then we would just start turning up demand. And it happens maybe not instantly, but very fast.
So if it's not speeding up, should you infer that your quality hasn't improved enough?
I'm sure there's got to be some feedback loop time. So if you've taken a load of stuff that wasn't so great off your site, surely there's some time for you to pick up on signals that maybe other people are creating. So that relies on other people to come and start linking to your stuff because now it's not rubbish.
Yeah.
So there could be some time delay. And if you're changing on Monday morning and panicking by Tuesday morning, maybe that's not long enough.
I mean, I would say this surely, especially if you have a large site, like it's surely not enough. But if it's like a few pages, then you can even use the Search Console URL inspection thingy to submit to the index and see what happens. I think if I invested a lot of work improving the quality and I don't see any crawling effects, then as a test, I might actually block those URLs from search to see if it actually does something. Because it might actually just be that that would confirm whether you improved enough or not.
Right.
How?
I
mean, you're blocking it? So how would that...
Yeah, because you block it and then suddenly the search demand goes up and it's like, oh, it was holding me back, so I have to improve still. Yeah.
Let me in.
Right. So if, let's say, that I wanted to find you on the internet, Dave, how would I do that?
You could come and find me on my website at tamethebots.com. Maybe find me on LinkedIn, or most importantly, come see us at the Search Central Help community.
And you said Tame the Bots?
tamethebots.com.
Is your site HTTPS?
It is.
This is very important to me.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
FTP. It's on Gopher.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that word for a very long time. I know that you're active on LinkedIn and, of course, Search Central Help community.
Yeah.
And people can find you there too. Well, thank you for coming to our little podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It was wonderful having you. And maybe if you give us enough links, we will invite you back.
Awesome.
For indexing, part 2.
I'll not block you with robots text then.
Oh, okay. That sounds like fun. We've been having fun with these podcast episodes. I hope you, the listener, have found them both entertaining and insightful too. Feel free to drop us a note on Twitter at Google Search C or chat with us at one of the next events we go to if you have any thoughts. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.